Everyone can be a change maker, and communities can create the future they want. This is part of the awesome vision for StartSomeGood, the crowdfunding platform for social enterprise. And today I'm thrilled to welcome its co-founder, Tom Dawkins.
Oh, thanks for having me, Catherine. It's really wonderful to be here.
So StartSomeGood is evolving. Can you give us a sense of what's on your plate now?
Sure. The key way we've evolved is from being very cynical about the capacity of the sector to better support innovation, and therefore focused on how you help innovators not rely on the sector. So now doing a lot of work around how we actually can bring the different parts of the sector together, how we can better match capital with innovation. And so it's interesting, our original visual metaphor for what we did was that we were a set of pliers that allowed people to cut a hole in the fence and go around the traditional gatekeepers in the social sector. And so we very strongly had a mandate and identity as kind of, punk rockers of the charitable world, maybe. We didn't care about tax deductibility. We didn't care about your foundation or government. We're like, screw all of that. Let's just get on with it. Let's just change the world. But of course, the realization kind of dawned at some point that is actually where most of the capital is. And that given that we work at the intersection of kind of money and innovation and social impact, at some point you start going, God, we've got to get our hands on some of that money. Well, not our hands, but rather we've got to help these amazing people we know with genuinely, insightful, innovative ideas to make a difference. How do we help them receive support from organizations that are sitting on capital and desperate for new ideas and innovation? They want to find each other. There's just a kind of disconnect at the moment. They don't know where to look for each other. They don't know how to talk to each other. And for traditional foundations, supporting stuff at an earlier stage feels very scary. It kind of challenges business as usual. And the scarcity mindset that exists, which is that we haven't got a dollar, we have no money to waste, and failure is waste, and therefore we can't risk investing in things that might fail. And of course, there's so many problems with that mindset on a deep cultural level. Failure isn't waste at all. Failure is incremental progress towards breakthroughs. And so a lot of our work today, to come back to your question, is helping foundations think about things like that. And corporates and governments, how do we better support innovation? How do we de-risk those investments? How do we increase the likelihood that the projects we're investing in will ultimately succeed and have the support that they need, not only in terms of financial capital, but intellectual and relational capital and smart people on their sides and distribution and all the rest of it as well. And that's a lot of what we do now at StartSomeGood. It's still certainly available. Every day people turn up and launch crowdfunding campaigns. We want more people to do that. But we also do a lot of work thinking about how do you plug a platform like that onto existing processes like crowdfunding through things like conditional match funding, open innovation challenges, and we provide a lot of coaching and training to social entrepreneurs, in partnership with.
And what sort of outcomes and impact are you starting to trace with this?
So we're not a crowdfunder. So we're actually not concerned with it. Our job is not to track long-term impacts, to be honest, and nor do we have the capacity to do so. And nor do they owe us anything. We're a service provider. Our job is to help get things out there in the marketplace so the marketplace can decide the usefulness of that and to skill up entrepreneurs so they can give themselves the best available chance. And so we see our impact as in the number of things that we help successfully launch. And so the key impact from our approach is, for instance, that we're the platform with the highest project success rate in course crowdfunding. That most of course crowdfunding is kind of like a giant net negative on the sector, because the vast majority of all campaigns fail. So a huge amount of effort goes in, and the end result is actually that effort is often wasted. And a whole lot of goodwill from potentially supporters is also squandered through badly aligned fundraising practices like keep what you raise, where you take people's money even though you cannot functionally follow through or deliver them the thing they're trying to invest in, which fundamentally undermines trust and engagement around your cause. And so there's a lot of misunderstandings around the impacts of these different models. And our job, I guess, is to better educate people, but also provide what we think is the kind of proven best model to do this kind of fundraising. And we think that we prove that through the actual success rate of the projects that we work with. One of the only platforms that has more success than failure. And then, of course, the real impact is not just the successful crowdfunding campaigns, although that's really important to us. If people can't raise the money they need, they can't try their innovation, and we'll never get the benefit of finding out whether it could work or not. And a breakthrough we desperately need might go waste, might go begging. But it's also that so many of those campaigns, because they're customer oriented and community oriented from day one, which crowdfunding forces you to be, they're actually, and they've built a set of skills around sharing their story and inspiring people to support them. And I think that's the core entrepreneurial skill. I think like if you were to define entrepreneurship, what's the one skill you need as an entrepreneur versus anything else? It's the capacity to make people suspend their disbelief and to come with you on the journey, even though statistically, like the odds are always stacked against you. Like everyone knows that the catastrophic failure rates in any sort of a startup. So the rational instinct is to never support anything on some level. And the skill of an entrepreneur is to get people across that hurdle. So the core skill is always, how do you make people care? How do you tell stories that make people care? And whether that's pitching for investment or trying to sell to consumers or recruiting staff, partnerships, whatever the case might be. It's that core skill that gets honed, tested, and developed through crowdfunding as well. So we see a huge amount of kind of momentum created by a lot of social enterprises that we help launch, and they really go on to do amazing things. And so, I can share some individual stories of that. There's amazing organizations like Ability Mate, which do 3D printing for prosthetics. They're doing incredible things. They launched with us last year. Good Beer just launched their third beer. They launched their second with us, which is a beer around marriage equality and raising funds for the poor. And just a whole bunch of really interesting social enterprises that are rapidly growing within their category, from fashion to food to a lot of indigenous ecotourism, things like that as well.
Now, it's tempting to ask for tips for how to make it succeed, but I know you've got lots of resources on the website for that very purpose.
The job of a fundraiser is to put your own feelings aside and think about what you can, think about the emotions of the people you're trying to engage. It's their feelings that matter. How do you make them feel excited? How do you reduce their sense of risk or danger, particularly if what you're doing is innovative and new? So what you're doing is already unproven. You as a change maker have no track record. And then you say, I'm going to keep your money no matter what. Well, yeah, bad deal. So particularly for anything that's innovative, you've got to choose the model that de-risks that. And that's all or nothing. And there's a million little things like that. But it almost always comes down to just who are you doing it for, yourself or for others? If you're doing it for others, you can really succeed, and you can succeed magnificently if you're actually serving as a conduit for community aspirations. Crowdfunding is an incredibly powerful tool to build that community around that aspiration and aggregate resources so that we can get things done in the real world.
And can you give a bit of a sense of the role creativity can play in social impact?
For sure. I mean, I think all social impact requires creativity. If the status quo was working, we wouldn't, need new projects to, that everything would be fine, everything would be hunky-dory. So anytime there is a social challenge, we need to creatively think about how to change the status quo. And that involves, the very essence of creativity, which is how do you kind of deploy resources in a way to achieve the outcome you want, whether that's to tell the story you want or to, achieve the kind of community outcomes you want. And then at the heart of fundraising is a story you're telling about the future. Storytelling is the human technology for making people care. Coming back to what we were saying before, the job of an entrepreneur is to make people care. The human technology for making people care is storytelling. And so the job of an entrepreneur is to always be telling stories, true stories, but the right stories for that audience. And people talk about this in different ways. Sometimes they use the word pitching. A pitch is a story. And fundraising is a particular type of story because it's a story about the future and about the kind of future that you want, and then a story about how you think we can get there. And then crowdfunding is specifically an invitation to come on that journey with you to create that future. And so one of the key things when we think about, kind of creativity and storytelling and fundraising is what's the story people tell themselves about fundraising? And this is where I think so many people find it so hard, because they're telling themselves a fundamentally disempowering story, which is a story about their own. It's a story about the thing you don't have. And that's hard to avoid, because fundraising inevitably means you're trying to raise the thing you don't have. If you had it already, you wouldn't be raising it. But it's also about sharing the thing you do have, which is your story and your vision. And not just your vision, your plan. You're the person with a plan to make the future better. And the fact is, there's a lot of people out there who have money, but they lack the thing that you have. They lack the sense of optimism. They lack hope. They lack a sense of plan about how to create a better future. And so we always train our fundraisers, don't think about it as asking for something, although you are in a way asking. Think about it as inviting or offering. You're offering people a way to make a difference.
I wanted to ask too, perhaps when you're talking about failure and you're perhaps talking about these internal narratives that aren't helpful, the broader question of resilience in social enterprise or as an entrepreneur, how do you navigate that?
That is a great question. Entrepreneurship is difficult because it has existential dimensions. in a way that, you know, you might do a difficult job and you have to get up every morning and go, oh, how am I going to make that thing happen today? But you might not be like, and if I don't make it happen, we run out of money in 27 days or whatever. But entrepreneurship, as an entrepreneur, you always have some number of days. You know, you hope it's more, it could be less. But even when it's months away, years away, there's a date at which it all comes crashing down. And so you kind of have this sense of kind of existential dread that you don't get in kind of conventional jobs, and that can weigh at you. And then that's oscillate, and then it tends to be incredibly up down. You know, even when you're making progress, it's not like that. You know, it's like that even as it's going upwards every day. It's up and down. So I think there's a couple of things. I think you need the ability to step away. Part of my very simple, you know, such a simple self-care routine, but I go walking every day. I'm a bit of a slave to my Fitbit, but that's been really helpful for me to have like a number, you know, and kind of a goal to achieve every day. And I really committed to that a couple of years ago, and it's been really good. It's kind of me time in the day. It's when if I need to think about something, I'll kind of schedule it to go walking and to let my mind explore it. Often if I need to do phone calls, I might do them while walking, or even in-person meetings as well. But anyway, just getting the blood flowing, because otherwise you can get really stuck. I feel like it's on your screen bashing away at things. What's interesting about that as well is that it can actually be the most effective way to get things done is to step away. You know, so often what you need is not just more work. You yourself need a breakthrough. You need some sort of innovation. Something needs to shift in the way that you're approaching things, whether that's your marketing strategy or, you know, the way in which you're structuring your actual offer or your business, or the way you're delivering that, or how you're recruiting and managing people. Something needs to shift. And when something needs to shift, the best way to create that shift is not just to like write more emails or to, you know, bash away on the laptop. It's often like you've got to step away and let your brain work on it in a more linear fashion. And it's, you know, that's why we have aha moments. They don't come when you're like typing a memo. They come when you're staring at the horizon, or, you know, walking amongst trees, or in the bath, famously. But yeah, so I really think that it's funny that often I think the things that are best for our personal self-care are actually the best for our businesses. But the barrier towards people embracing those practices is the feeling that they're letting the business down. They can't walk away because that's taking me time, and that's selfish. And I have to give my time to the business or the family or whatever, all our other responsibilities. But in fact, there's no conflict between these things. They're one of those wonderful things that if you can get past the kind of dichotomy in your mind, they actually come together in the real world. Because that walk is just what you need, and to like settle down your nervous system, and to, you know, get back in your body a little bit, to get back in the present moment. But in that present moment, your brain can do amazing things and can create amazing connections that can give you the breakthrough you need to actually, you know, get work done and stay sustainable as a business and so on as well. So that's key for me. But people have to find their own practice with that. My wife does a lot of work in this area, as you know. If anyone is interested in resilience or building self-care routines, particularly any female founders, entrepreneurs, or just anyone struggling with all the pressures of life out there, you should Google Radical Self-Care Project.
Absolutely. I love the choices that you frame so well, and then we do have a choice in every moment, you know, as humans, but as entrepreneurs, and in looking after ourselves in the journey. So thank you so much for joining us, for your precious time, and all the best with continuing to grow StartSomeGood and the partnerships in action.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure.